The trap was set. The jungle was not silent. It breathed, shifted, whispered with life. Red vines hung like sleeping snakes. Bright-eyed creatures blinked from the underbrush. The ground was soft, covered in moss that swallowed every footstep. Lixa crouched high in the trees, her gray skin blending with the bark. Her long ears twitched as she focused on the clearing below. She had seen many things on this planet, but this was different. Below, 3 elite mercenaries waited. Full armor, pulse blades, neural visors. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Each movement was silent and perfect. They were trained killers sent to capture one human. Just one dot, and yet, Lixa felt nervous. "This is overkill," she whispered to herself, barely moving her lips. One man against them. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was only meant to observe from afar. But something about this human, it pulled her in. She'd watched him for days. Alone, quiet, smart. He didn't act like prey. He didn't panic when creatures roared. He didn't even seem surprised when alien scouts flew above. Instead, he set traps. He watched back, and now he was walking straight into the ambush. Lixa held her breath. The human stepped into the clearing calm. Slow, looking around like he didn't have a care in the world. He wore torn brown clothes and had a scruffy beard. No armor, no gun, just a small sacotage. And then he reached down and picked up a rock. A rock. Lixa frowned. What was he doing? One of the mercenaries moved first, jumping out from behind a tree. His blade lit up with a hum. The human didn't flinch. Crack. The rock flew through the air like lightning. The sound echoed. The mercenary dropped without a word. Its visor shattered. Blood hit the moss. Lixa gasped. The other 2 mercenaries froze for a second, clearly not expecting that. The human didn't wait. He sprinted forward, grabbed a second rock, and charged. Lixa had seen many battles. She had studied war on 3 planets, but nothing like this. The second mercenary lunged with his blade. The human ducked under it and slammed the rock into the alien's leg, breaking it. The alien screamed. The human grabbed the screaming alien's own blade and spun, driving it straight into his neck. 2 down. The third mercenary backed up quickly, blade raised. The human stood still now, holding the first rock in one hand, the stolen blade in the other. His eyes were cold, focused. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. The mercenary activated his visor signal. Red lights blinked. Backup was coming, but it was too late. The human hurled the blade like a spear. It sliced through the air and struck the third mercenary in the chest. He fell, choking. 3 trained killers, defeated in less than a minute, by a man with a rock. Lixa's heart raced. Her eyes were wide. Who was this human? Suddenly, the human turned his head, slowly. Calmly, he looked straight up at the tree she was hiding in. Her breath stopped. She didn't move. "I know you're up there," he said quietly. His voice wasn't angry, not loud, not scared. "You've been following me?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her mind raced. She was sure she'd stayed hidden. She was trained in shadow movement, stealth. Even the jungle creatures hadn't seen her. And yet the human dropped the blood-covered rock. Then, without another word, he turned away and walked back into the trees. Lixa stayed frozen. He didn't take anything from the dead. He didn't celebrate. He didn't even run. He just walked away. She blinked, her claws gripping the branch. This wasn't over. No. It was just beginning. Asterisk blood in the dirt. The clearing was quiet now. Too quiet. The 3 bodies lay still on the moss-covered ground. Their blood was dark green, soaking into the earth. The weapons they carried pulse blades. Neural trackers, even a plasma net lay useless beside them, and the human. He had vanished. Lixa dropped from the tree, landing silently on her feet. Her gray fingers trembled slightly as she walked toward the bodies. She had watched the whole thing from above. Every strike, every move. And even now, standing this close, she could barely believe it. The first mercenary's visor was cracked straight through the middle. A single rock had shattered then his skull. Lixa crouched beside him. His blade was still active, humming faintly. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. She looked up. The direction the human had gone was toward the deeper jungle. No paths, no lights, just darkness. He should have run, she whispered. But he didn't. She looked again at the rock. It wasn't sharp. It wasn't shaped like a weapon. It was just a stone. She stood and followed. The jungle became thicker with every step. Thick vines brushed against her skin. Insects buzzed past her ears. The air was wet and heavy. Lixa followed the human's trail carefully. Broken branches. Light footprints. He was fast, but not careless. He wanted to be followed. Or maybe he just didn't care anymore. She walked for 10 minutes, maybe 15, before the smell hit her. Smoke. She stepped into a small clearing. There, in the center, the human sat beside a small fire. A stick was stuck into the dirt. On top of it, something was cooking, some jungle beast she didn't recognize. He looked up as she stepped closer. "Took you long enough," he said. She froze. "You knew I was following you again." The human shrugged. "You were quieter this time." She didn't know what to say. He gestured to the ground across from him. "Sit. I'm not going to kill you." She didn't move. Not right away. But something about his calm voice made her legs move anyway. She sat. He handed her a piece of roasted meat. She stared at it. "I don't eat that," she said. "You're welcome to starve then." He replied, taking a bite. Silence fell between them. Only the fire crackled. After a while, she spoke. "You killed 3 trained soldiers with just rocks." He chewed slowly. "They weren't as smart as they thought. They were some of the best. You should be dead." He looked at her now, eyes sharp but tired. "A lot of people think I should be dead. Been hearing that since I was 12. She stared. 12. He nodded. "That's when they took Earth." Lixa frowned. "You're one of the first-generation survivors." He gave a bitter smile. "Yeah, congratulations. You're talking to one of the last." She felt cold suddenly. Her mission had been to observe him, study human behavior, report any threats. She hadn't expected this. "You didn't hesitate," she said. "You didn't panic. Most humans would run." "Running gets you killed," he said. "They taught me that early." She looked into the fire, unsure what she was even doing here. She was supposed to leave, send a report, tell them he was dangerous, but she didn't want to. Not yet. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "Why are you out here, in this jungle? Why not go to the colonies and hide?" He didn't answer right away. He stared at the flames. "Because I'm tired of hiding," he said, "and because they need to know." "Know what?" He leaned forward, his voice low. "That humans don't forget. That we remember what was done to us. And that even if we're outnumbered, even if we're hunted, we will fight back. Even if we only have a rock." Lixa shivered. This was not what she had been taught. The humans were supposed to be broken, obedient, scared. But this one was different. Suddenly, a sharp clicking sound echoed from the trees. Lixa jumped to her feet. The human didn't move. "What is it?" she whispered. He stood up slowly and looked into the jungle. Scouts, he said. They're coming. Saw the fire, probably. Maybe tracked the signal from the mercs. Lixa reached for her cum. I don't, he said sharply. If you call them, I'll be dead in seconds. She froze. Her hand trembled over her device. He looked at her. I saved your life back there. I could have left you in that tree. But I didn't. Now it's your choice. Lixa stared at him. Her mind raced. Her orders were clear. But her heart... WASN, single quotes. And for the first time, she didn't know which side she was on. Come out or stay hiding. Lixa crouched behind a wide tree trunk, breathing hard, hands still over her cum unit. Her heart pounded in her chest. Just a second ago, she was ready to call the scout team. But then the human looked at her. Not with fear, but something else. Trust. Why? Why would he trust her? The clicking noise grew louder, sharp, precise. Metallic 2 red lights flashed deep in the jungle. Search, drones. They floated through the trees, scanning for heat. Behind them came 2 small scout bots, moving fast, low to the ground. The human didn't run. He simply knelt beside the fire and picked up a fistful of ash. Then, calmly, he rubbed the gray dust over his face, neck, and arms. His skin disappeared under the soot. Lixa stepped out of hiding. You're insane, she said in a low voice. You can't hide from them with just ash. He didn't look at her. They don't have time to scan every shadow. Their tech's lazy. If I lower my heat and stay still, I'm invisible. She narrowed her eyes. How do you know they're tech? He finally looked up. Because I built it. Lixa blinked. What? I worked in one of their factories after my family was taken. Made drones, learned what they see, learned how to disappear. The clicking was close now. One of the floating red drones zipped past. Lixa ducked. The human stood completely still. One scout bot stopped right in front of him. It scanned. Lixa held her breath. The scanner beeped once, then turned green and moved on. Lixa stared. Her jaw tightened. It worked. It actually worked. When the drones disappeared into the far trees, the human finally moved again. He wiped his face and grabbed a cloth from his bag. I told you not to call them, he said, without looking at her. And you didn't? Lixa crossed her arms. Don't think that means I'm on your side. He smirked. Sure sounds like it. She looked away, angry at herself. She should have turned him in. She still could. But something held her back. Maybe it was his eyes, the way he moved. Or maybe it was because he wasn't just surviving. He was fighting back. Why are you alone out here? She asked after a moment. I told you, he said, rolling up a sleeve. There were burn scars on his arms, old, deep ones. I got tired of hiding, of watching. I figured if I made noise, they'd send someone. Lixa frowned. You wanted them to come. He nodded. And now you're here. She stepped closer, watching him carefully. You knew I was watching you, even before the ambush. He nodded again. You're not as quiet as you think. You have a scent. And birds fly away when you move. She scowled. You think you're so clever. I'm still alive, aren't I? Lixa glanced around. Not for long if you stay here. More will come. I know. Then why stay? He looked at her, serious now. Because I want them to come. I want them to see what a human can do. I want them to fear what we are. There was silence. And then the fire popped, throwing a few sparks. Lixa stepped back slightly. You're not like the other humans we've captured. Captured. He echoed. His voice was different now. Cold, sharp. How many have you taken? She didn't answer. He stood slowly, not fast, but with purpose. He picked up a rock again just like before. Simple, heavy. She stepped back. "I'm not your enemy," she said. "Then why are you trembling?" he asked quietly. She wasn't, not at first. But now, her hands were shaking. He wasn't threatening her, not directly. But the weight of what he had done, what he could do, hung in the air like a blade. She took a deep breath. "I followed you because I wanted to know why you were different, why you weren't afraid, why you fought like that. And now you—" "No," he said. She shook her head. "No. Now I have more questions." He raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Why do you care if they fear you? What will that change?" He lowered the rock. "Because if they fear us," he said, "maybe they'll stop hunting us." Lixa said nothing. The fire was low now. The jungle was quiet again. Finally, the human sat back down. "You can leave if you want," he said. "Go. Tell them what you saw. Or you can stay." Lixa didn't move. "I'm not staying because I like you," she said sharply. He smiled. "Of course not." She sat down anyway. The two of them sat in silence, side by side. While the jungle breathed around them, something had changed, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Asterisk. The truth they hit the night was thick with heat, and smoke. Lixa sat across from the human, her back pressed against a crooked tree. She should have left, but she didn't. She told herself it was curiosity, but deep inside, something else was growing. She wanted to understand him. The human had no name, least none he shared. She just called him the man in her report notes. But now, as the fire dimmed to soft embers, and the stars blinked through the tree gaps, she found herself wanting to know more. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folded cloth. Carefully, he unwrapped it. Inside was an old, faded photograph. Lixa leaned closer. The picture showed a group of humans. Dirty clothes, scarred faces. And behind them stood alien guards, her kind. Tall, armored, holding shock spears. "Where did you get that?" she asked. The man didn't answer right away. He looked at the photo for a long time. "That's my family," he said, finally. "Or what was left of it." Lixa's throat tightened. She didn't know what to say. "I was 6 when the first dropships landed," he continued. "We didn't fight. We didn't even know what was happening. One day, we had our homes. The next, we were livestock." Lixa looked down. "I wasn't born yet." He nodded. "Most of you weren't. That's how it works." The generation that remembers gets hunted. The generation that forgets becomes the next guard. She looked at the picture again. One of the human children in the photo had the same eyes as the man. "Is that you?" He gave a sad smile. "Yeah, before I learned what survival really meant." Lixa felt a strange ache in her chest. This wasn't in any of the official reports. The archive said Earth was conquered peacefully. That humans were too weak to resist, but the man's scars told a different story. They told us humans were dangerous. She whispered. That you attacked first. That we had to strike fast to prevent a war. He laughed. Not a happy laugh. A bitter, tired one. "They always say that," he said. "Makes it easier to justify what comes next." She looked at him. His face was tired but calm. "You still carry the photo," she said. "Why?" He looked her dead in the eyes. "So I don't forget." Lixa leaned back against the tree, silent. Her cum unit buzzed once, barely a whisper, a coded message. She didn't open it. "What's your name?" she asked quietly. The man hesitated, then said, "Jack." She nodded slowly. "I'm Lixa." He looked at her. "I know." She blinked. "How?" "You muttered it in your sleep last night." Her cheeks warmed slightly. "You were listening." I was making sure you didn't stab me, she gave. A small smirk. Fair enough. A low rumble echoed in the distance. Thunder. No. Not thunder. Jack stood quickly. He grabbed his bag and listened. Lixa stood too. What is it? He narrowed his eyes. That's not weather. That's a scout craft. She pulled her scanner and checked. You're right. Scanning the forest to clicks north. Shouldn't be here unless someone tipped them off, Jack said darkly. Lixa felt her stomach twist. She hadn't sent a signal. She hadn't. She opened the message from earlier. It was from High Command. Scout team approaching target location. Prepare to mark if still visual. Terminate if hostile. Lixa felt cold. They didn't want to capture Jack anymore. They wanted him gone. Jack watched her eyes. You're not going to mark me, are you? She looked at him. No. Even though it's your job. She nodded. Why? He asked. Lixa took a deep breath. Because everything I was taught, everything I believed, was a lie. You're not some wild animal. You're not broken. You're stronger than anything I've seen. Jack picked up his rock again. The same one he had used before. I don't want to kill anyone else, he said. But if they come for me, I know, she said. The rumble grew louder. Lixa took out her own blaster. It was small, but enough to delay a scout. Jack raised an eyebrow. You sure you're ready for this? Show, she said honestly. But I'm not going to hide anymore. Jack looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. And in that moment, the hunter and the watcher became something else. Not enemies, not friends, but something in between, something dangerous. Jungle of Knives, the air had changed. It wasn't just the wind. The jungle felt different, now tense, alert. The creatures had gone quiet. The trees seemed to hold their breath. Even the buzzing insects had vanished. Jack crouched behind a thick tree root, his hand holding the same smooth, heavy rock. Lixa lay flat beside him, her blaster drawn. The scout ship was close now, too close. The low, grinding hum of its engines rumbled above the treetops. Its searchlights scanned slowly through the dense forest. White beams cutting through leaves like knives. They know we're here, Jack said quietly. Lixa looked at him. Then why haven't they fired? They want a visual. They need to confirm before they strike. Probably still hoping to capture me alive. Lixa nodded, but deep down she wasn't so sure. After seeing what Jack had done, she doubted they'd risk getting close. Just then, a sharp hiss echoed through the trees. Something fast, heavy, hunting. Jack froze. That's not the scout ship. Another hiss, a tay, and a low growl, wet and guttural. Something big moved through the underbrush, snapping branches. Lixa's fingers gripped her blaster tighter. What is it? She whispered. Jack's jaw clenched. They dropped a Ravager. Lixa's eyes widened. A Ravager? Here. He nodded. I saw them use it once. It's not a tracker. It's a weapon. Living and hungry. But they're unstable. She said. Even command doesn't trust them. They don't need to. They just need it to kill me. A crash to their right. A thick tree trunk splintered. Something stepped into view. It was huge, most 3 meters tall, covered in black scales and armored muscle. Its claws gleamed. Its mouth was wide and filled with rows of needle teeth. But worst of all were its eyes, red, empty, focused only on one thing. Jack.lix. I couldn't breathe. The Ravager roared and charged. Jack didn't wait. He grabbed a vine above his head and swung onto a branch just as the beast slammed into the dirt. Where he had been crouching, the ground cracked under its weight. Move. He shouted. Lixa rolled out of the way as the Ravager's tail whipped around, nearly slicing her in half. She fired her blaster. The bolt hit its side but barely slowed it down. "It's armored." She yelled. Jack landed on a rock outcrop and waved. "Hey, ugly." The Ravager turned toward him. It roared again, spraying saliva across the mossy floor. Jack jumped, mid-air. He swung another vine and kicked the Ravager straight in the face. It stumbled. Not much, but enough. He hit the ground, rolled, and came up behind it, in his hand still the rock. He slammed it into the beast's knee joint. Once, twice, crack. The Ravager screamed. Lixa stared in disbelief. Who was this man, fighting a monster with nothing but speed, instinct, and a stone? She aimed for its eye. Fired this time, the bolt struck true. The Ravager shrieked, clawing at its face. "Now?" Jack yelled. He ran straight up a sloped boulder, gaining height. As the Ravager stumbled back, blind in one eye, Jack leaped from the rock, aiming his whole body downward. He drove the rock with both hands into the creature's throat right. Between two armor plates, a sick crunch followed. The Ravager collapsed, dust. Silence. The jungle was still again. Jack stood over the body, panting. His hands were bloody. The rock had snapped in half. Lixa slowly stepped out from cover, her blaster still ready. Her voice shook. "You killed it." "With a rock again?" Jack dropped the broken piece and wiped his face. "Not just the rock." He said, "You helped. That shot to the eye saved me." She blinked. He gave her credit. No mocking. No ego. She looked at the shattered beast. That thing. That was meant to tear you apart. Jack looked her in the eyes, and it almost did. "Why didn't you run?" "Because if I run, it chases. If I fight, it bleeds." Ka felt a strange chill down her spine. She had seen fear before. She had studied war. She'd even stood on the edge of battlefields, but she had never seen someone so calm in the face of death. So human, and now she understood why her commanders wanted him dead so badly. Because fear like this could spread. Jack knelt and picked up a sharp shard. From the broken rock, he placed it into his bag. "A memory," he said simply. Lixa nodded. Up above, the scout ship pulled away. They had seen the Ravager's failure. They wouldn't risk a direct strike. Not yet. "They'll come again," she said. "I hope so," he replied. She looked at him. "You're not just surviving, are you?" "No," he said. "I'm starting something." And she believed him. Asterisk the message. The Ravager's body still lay where it had fallen bloody. Broken, steaming dot. Jack sat beside the fire again, carving something into the side of a tree with the sharp shard from the broken rock. His movements were slow and focused. Keza watched him silently, standing nearby, arms crossed. "Is that writing?" she finally asked. Jack nodded. "A message? To who?" He glanced over his shoulder. "To them." Lixa stepped closer. She could barely read the deep marks scratched into the bark. The letters were in human script, bold and jagged. "I'm not afraid of your monsters." Below it, a smaller line. "I'm just getting started." Lixa stared at it. "They'll see that and send more." "I hope they do," Jack said, rising. She looked at him carefully. "You want a war?" He shook his head. "I want them to know humans don't run anymore. They say we're extinct, scattered, broken. But we're still here. And if one human with a rock can kill their best soldiers and beasts, what happens when the others stop hiding too?" Lixa felt something tighten in her chest. This wasn't just about survival. This was a spark. "Do you think they'll be afraid of words carved into a tree?" she asked. Jack didn't smile. His face was calm. "No," he said. "They'll be afraid of what it means." Just then, a short, sharp beep echoed in the air. Lix's heart jumped. She reached for her side, but it wasn't her cum. Jack held a tiny device in his hand. He placed it on a flat stone and pressed a button. A small red light blinked 3 times. "What is that?" Lixa asked. "A signal booster," he said, "for their scanners. You're bringing them here." Jack nodded. "They're already hunting. Might as well let them know where to look." She grabbed his arm. "You'll be killed." He looked at her hand, then at her face. "Then they'll finally see what kind of fight they're in. Jack, this is suicide." "No," he said. "This is bait." Lixa froze. He wasn't running anymore. He wasn't even hiding. He was inviting them. She stepped back, struggling to breathe. "I should stop you. I should destroy that beacon." "That's what I'm supposed to do." Jack didn't stop her. He simply stood there, waiting. "But," she whispered, "I can't." "Why?" "Because," she said, tears stinging her eyes. "I've seen too much. I've seen the truth. And I can't go back to pretending you're a threat that needs to be erased." Jack gave a small nod. "Then stay." "I'm risking everything," she said. "So am I." They stood in silence for a moment while the jungle whispered around them. Then Jack pointed toward a nearby hilltop. "We'll wait from up there. Good view. If they come, we'll see them first." Lixa nodded, wiping her face. The climb was short but rough. The path was covered in wet roots and shifting stones. At the top, the trees thinned, and the view opened. They could see the jungle stretching for miles, the faint outline of the scout ship looping in the distance. Jack pulled out a small, mere shard and angled it to catch the sunlight. He aimed it toward the sky and flashed it in a patterned short bursts. Lix's eyes widened. "You're using old Earth code?" "Morse," he said. "Most alien scanners ignore it. Too simple." "What did you just say?" He smirked. "I said, still alive, still fighting." A long pause passed. Then, far off in the distance, 2 blinking lights answered. They were coming. Lix's throat went dry. "You ready?" Jack sat down on a rock and picked up another stone. He began carving again. "Ready?" She looked over his shoulder. This time, he wrote in alien script their language. "You took our world, but you didn't take our will." She stepped beside him and added her own mark beneath it, the symbol of a watcher. Jack looked at her. "That's your caste." She nodded. "It was? Not anymore." She looked into his eyes. "Now I watch for something else." The sound of engines grew louder. Multiple ships. Troop-class. Jack stood up and stretched. Lixa charged her blaster. They were 2 against an army. But they weren't afraid, and deep in the stars, commanders would soon stare at a strange report. "Scout team eliminated. Message carved into tree. Human signature confirmed." They would laugh at first. Then they'd hear what the message said, and they would stop laughing. Gasp heard across the stars. The sky above the jungle roared. 2 dropships cut through the clouds like dark knives. Engines blazing. The trees below bent from the wind and fire. Birds scattered. Creatures fled, but Jack didn't move. He stood tall, on the hilltop, beside a burned-out campfire. His shirt was torn. His arms still carried dried blood. In one hand, he held the broken half of the rock, his first weapon. In the other, a small reflective shard. Lixa stood beside him, blaster ready. She had removed her rank badge, thrown it into the dirt. "I count 20 on board each ship," she said, checking the scanner. Jack nodded. 40 soldiers. "That's all. They don't believe you're a real threat yet. Then let's show them." The ships hovered just above the trees. A hatch opened. Ropes dropped. Soldiers began rappelling down fast, silent, armored in black plating. Lix's breath tightened. Jack watched calmly. "They'll split into groups," he said. "4 teams, 10 each. You've fought them before." I watched them. "Wipe out a resistance camp." "Same pattern?" Lixa turned to him. "We're not going to survive this. We're not supposed to." She blinked. "Then why we don't need to survive," Jack said. "We just need to be seen." One of the soldiers reached the ground. He raised his weapon. Jack grabbed Lixa's wrist and pulled her behind the rocks. Just in time. Energy bolts exploded where they had stood. They slid down the hill, using roots and loose dirt to stay hidden. The jungle lit up with red beams, slicing through the trees. "Split up," Jack shouted. Lixa hesitated, then nodded. She ran left, weaving between thick trunks. Jack ran the opposite way, ducking under low branches, jumping over roots. Behind him, the soldiers shouted something in alien language. He didn't stop. He was leading them, drawing them in. Just like last time, Lixa found cover behind a fallen log. Her heart was racing. She hadn't trained for this not real combat. Not against her own people. But Jack's voice echoed in her mind. "They don't fear us yet. That's what we changed today." She aimed and fired. 2 soldiers fell in a flash of blue light. She moved quickly, just as they taught her, but now using it against them. Suddenly, her comm beeped. An open transmission. "Subject is resisting. Human. Has eliminated 3 operatives. Request airstrike clearance." Lixa's eyes went wide. They weren't going to fight him anymore. They were going to burn the whole jungle. "No," she whispered. She tapped her comm. "Cancel that order." There was silence. Then another voice, cold, firm. "Identify yourself. This is Watcher Lixa. Do not strike. You'll hit your own teams, Lixa. You are under review for aiding a hostile. Extraction cancelled." The comm went dead. Lixa stared at it. They had cut her off. They were going to kill everyone's just. To get him, Jack stumbled through a clearing. His shirt was burned now, a plasma bolt having grazed his shoulder. But he kept moving. Behind him, the rock in his hand was slick with blood. Not as another soldier lunged. Jack dropped to one knee and slammed the rock upward. Bone cracked. The alien dropped .5 down. He leaned on a tree, gasping. His vision blurred. He didn't know if Lixa was still alive, but he knew what came next. He raised the mirror, shard again flashing it toward the sky in the same short pattern. "I'm still alive." No one answered. Then a buzz from his old distress beacon. It wasn't the military. It was a reply. From a hidden signal relay. "We see you." Jack blinked. Another flash. "We remember." His heart jumped. The old resistance. Channels still active. Somewhere on a dark moon or in a broken station others were watching. Others like him, and now. They had proof. Lixa found him minutes later, crouched by the hilltop tree. "Jack," she yelled. "They're calling. In an airstrike. They don't care about survivors." He stood up, slowly. "Then we better leave something behind." She looked confused. Jack stepped toward the tree where he had left the last message. He carved 3 new symbols into the bark, then dropped his blood-covered rock beside it. Lixa looked at the message. She gasped. It wasn't in human. It was written in ancient Galactic Kamana, forgotten language no one had seen in years. "You fear the wrong species." Far above them, surveillance drone zoomed in. It recorded the carving. It saw the alien girl standing beside the blood-covered man, and across the galaxy in hidden screens in war rooms. Secret bunkers, pirate ships, and resistance hideouts people watched. They saw Jack. They saw Lixa. They saw the message. And somewhere, someone whispered the words aloud. "He used a rock." Again. Billions heard the footage, and billions saw the alien girl's face. Oh, when she gasped.